Season 3 is here, and a powerful new leader from distant wastelands threatens to tear our island in two. From a giant metallic beast awakening on the island to a strange new artifact connected to Pandora's box, we've got a lot of mysteries to solve. The storyline this season is extremely in-depth, so for once, we'll have plenty to discuss. Consider using my code TLL the Reaper in the item shop to support me, and without further ado, let's dive into the Wasteland. Season 3 kicks off with a new villain crashing into the island, Megalodon, and alongside him, his post-apocalyptic crew, the Wasteland Warriors. With the sandstorm they arrived in, the lower portion of the map is covered in sand. Within the sandy dunes are brand new POIs led by the Wasteland Warriors, similar to the society in how each of their locations was owned by a single member each. Megalodon stays put at his massive ship, the Leviathan. This name will be important later on, so keep this in mind as we go forward. Moving on from him, the machinist runs Redline Rig, the factory producing all of the nitro, which interestingly enough is being dug directly out of the island. This doesn't actually come from the island's core, but instead comes from the sand that arrived with them in the sandstorm. Lastly, Ringmaster Scar resides in the Nitrodrome, a massive Monster Jam type arena to race your cars in. Now that we've explored the main three Wasteland Warriors from this new faction, we can dive a little bit deeper into understanding the Wasteland and what Megalodon's big plan is. From what we can see, Megalodon is stranded. The machinist is farming nitro, and the Ringmaster is just partying. We're just gonna ignore her. But Redline Rig and Brutal Beachhead will be extremely important POIs as this season progresses. Let me explain. Megalodon is currently in his control room at the top of his ship, broadcasting messages across the island, which you can actually hear while playing if you hop into a car and switch the radio to mysterious transmissions. He makes a lot of threats, scares, and even a couple insulting messages about how he'd probably give our island 3 points out of 5 if he's being honest. But aside from those, he also mentions what he plans to do later on. Many took this line as a hint towards the fact that Megalodon has a real Leviathan somewhere off the coast of the island, but in reality, he's actually referring to a ship, which has the word Leviathan painted on the side of it. But if he's talking about his giant metal ship, what does he mean by awakes? Well, that question can be answered by flying on over to Redline Rig. Here, the machinist is digging into the sand and harnessing the substance currently powering not only Megalodon, but the Wasteland too, nitro. Not only this, we already know what she's planning to do with it. A pipeline is being constructed on the west side of the rig, already stretching a good distance across the Wasteland, directly in the direction to Megalodon's Leviathan. Ladies and gentlemen, here's his big plan. When the pipeline finishes construction, it'll connect to the Leviathan, powering it up with the nitro the machinist is currently harvesting, allowing it to awaken and sail right through the island, leaving destruction and chaos in its wake. Even though this finished pipeline may be weeks ahead of us, we've actually already seen a glimpse of it. In the Nitro Fusion loading screen, we can find the pipeline stretching all the way across the Wasteland directly into the Leviathan. So we've completely uncovered Megalodon and the Wasteland Warriors' plans, but now it's time to head over to the side of the good guys, Hope and Jones. With the launch of Season 3, Hope finally has a voice actress, and Troy Baker returns as Jones, so we'll be able to hear them talk to us for the rest of this season's quests. First, we'll run through the first 2 parts of our storyline quests and break down what exactly they talk about. But after that, we'll head over to Hope's new location and see if we can figure out the mystery of the ancient Greek relic she seems to be studying. Oh, and all of the audio logs will be at the end of the video for you to listen to. Our first audio logs are a conversation between Hope and Jones. Hope mentions that she's suspicious of Megalodon and wants to investigate, and Jones responds with, "I don't care." Immediately, we can see something's off with him. His character has clearly evolved a lot since Chapter 3. And it seems he's honestly a bit more egotistical and lazy now, which is a bit hard to say for such a lovable character. Moving on through, Hope talks about her sister Valeria and how she feels responsible for cleaning up the mess her sister created by summoning Pandora's box. In game, we can even see Hope is now in possession of Valeria's old notes, but we'll get to that shortly. Hope then confirms our suspicions that Megalodon is trying to refuel his ship before he launches his attack, until she discovers something strange. She hears something she really doesn't like. In part 2, we figure out what this really is, but I'm not going to spoil that big reveal just yet. The quests end after we retrieve all the radio equipment, and she says it's probably nothing, rumors, maybe. And with that, that's about it for part 1 of the storyline quests. But moving on to part 2 is where things really kick into high gear, so make sure to stay until the end of the video to find out why. To start, Hope and Jones are suspicious that Megalodon is hiding something at Redline Rig. After eliminating a couple guards and stealing their keycards, we send data from different terminals to Hope for her to read through. Nothing too important here except for the fact that the machinist seems to be the only engineer in Megalodon's Wasteland Warriors. But then, after unleashing our rage across the Wasteland by destroying destroying some buildings, Hope tells us that she finally figured out what the chatter was that she heard in part 1. Islanders have been coming across mysterious gems throughout the Wasteland, and Hope thinks they're from Pandora's box. We travel over to the Leviathan and break in to find a gem sitting on top of a Pandora's box inspired pedestal. The gem looks identical to the one on the actual box, but much smaller, and with a brand new constellation pattern inside. Here's a picture on screen of the brand new 6 patterns that we received in our newest update. We'll talk about these more soon because they all mean some crazy things, so stay with me here. But after stealing this gem, Jones talks to Hope about the path she's following, her pursuit of Pandora's box. We finally get our first reference to the 0 point in what's felt like ages, with Jones talking about his own experience with objects of immense power and how they can't be controlled and should be avoided at all costs. Hope ignores his warnings, reasoning that the worst case scenario is someone bad gets their hands on the box's power first. Me personally, I think we may see Hope spiral down a very bad path soon, with this power reaching out to her and her motives changing. But moving on from that, we deliver the gem to Hope, and we can then find it sitting in one of the 4 slots of this new relic. The audio logs end off with Hope saying Pandora's box wants to be found, and if she can feel it, others can feel it too. I mean, wow, that is a lot of information in a very short amount of time. Pandora's box, having disappeared after Zeus overloaded the gem, is now calling out to Hope and others, wanting to be found. It's creating gems in the Wasteland, and some Wastelanders have already found some. But you may be asking yourself, for what? Well, now we need to hop in game and see what exactly this relic is all about. Flying on over to what is now Sandy Steps, we can see Hope moved into one of the buildings and set it up to act as her own research base. Inside, there's graffiti and monitors set up for her research, but more importantly, we can find that the book that led Valeria to Pandora's box sits open on Hope's desk. This ties into something even more interesting she's got hidden in a back room. When walking towards the back, we can find a brand new Greek relic, reminiscent of Pandora's box, which by the way is graffitied on the wall directly behind this new object. In the middle are 4 empty slots. Since we've already dove into the quests and talked about the gems, we know that this relic here is going to hold 4 gems in the middle. And at the end of part 2, when giving the gem to Hope, we can actually see the first one go inside one of these spots. But these gems going into this mysterious relic doesn't really tell us much. What's its purpose and what's going to happen when all 4 gems make it inside? Well, we have to think about the goals of Pandora's box. According to Hope, it wants to be found again, and now it's popping these gems into the Wasteland, which go to this relic that seems to harness their power. With that all being said, it seems like there's only one option for what this object is. It's a compass. By using the power of these 4 gems, it'll help point Hope directly to the location of where Pandora's box is now located. Even when looking at this relic, we can see it's got 4 cardinal directions in the middle. I could very much see us slowly getting all of the gems throughout season 3, leading to the compass being activated in season 4 and the search for Pandora's box beginning. Finally, where could the box even be? Well, if this timeline that I just talked about ends up being correct, that would mean Hope finds the whereabouts of Pandora's box sometime near the end of season 4. We know from the leaked roadmap that after season 4 comes our next OG season, where we go back to chapter 2. That could mean that Pandora's box actually time traveled to chapter 2 and landed somewhere on that island, which would be the perfect excuse for us to travel back in time again to get to the box and retrieve it. For our last part of the video though, we need to see if we can figure out what these constellations represent on these new gems. On screen is a picture of the 6 new constellations for your reference while I'm breaking these down. Keep in mind, these are just my theories and nothing has been confirmed yet, so do take this with a grain of salt. On the top left, I believe we see none other than Dr. Doom. When looking at different pictures of him, we can see the same squarish eyes and point for the nose. We also know from the leaked 2024 roadmap that he will be making a major appearance in season 4, so teasing him in the first gem constellation would make perfect sense. Moving over to the top middle, this is where things get tricky. I scoured through every single unreleased survey outfit, and the one I could match up with the most was this guy. When zooming into his face, we can see the bottom shape of the constellation is the exact same as the golden nose piece he's wearing. As for the triangle eyes, I'm not quite sure. This one is probably the biggest stretch out of all of these. But moving on to the top right, this appears to be Hope's beanie, likely symbolizing her importance in finding the box again. The bottom left reminds me of a ski seashell with the coral-like swirl. I'm not sure what relevance this would have in the future, but it does seem like everything here is going to have some sort of relevance in the following updates. So potentially something sea related. Now, the bottom middle looks like it's a tease towards our upcoming Pirates of the Caribbean summer event depicting a sword. So this makes sense to be teased too. Lastly, and most likely the most important one, the bottom right constellation. This shape is none other than that of the ghost logo from Chapter 2. Now, given the rest of these are likely for future appearances in the Fortnite storyline, I think it's safe to say this is a massive tease towards Chapter 2 arriving shortly after Season 4. The ghost logo being there feels super random, but if Pandora's box is being compared to the 0 point in the eyes of Jones, it's clear there's a lot more for us to discover about it and its abilities. And with that, that's pretty much every constellation broken down. I really do think the majority of my guesses here are very likely to be the real meaning behind the symbols, but of course we'll just have to wait and see. That's about it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this breakdown of Megalodon and Hope and Jones's upcoming story. If you'd like to support me, consider using my code TLL the Reaper in the item shop and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, keep reaping.
Jones, you're late.
I just dethroned the King of Olympus. I think I've earned some downtime.
First of all, we dethroned the King of Olympus. Second, no, I've been watching Megalodon. I don't like what I see.
I don't care.
Bring your friend.
Okay.
My sister Valeria is the arrogant super genius who found a way to summon Pandora's box. So I kind of consider myself on the hook for fixing this ever-expanding mess. You know, Jones.
Welcome back. Just so you know, Hope here has a little bit of a habit of picking a fight with the biggest bully she can find. So, we should make sure that we are in fighting shape. She's got her sights set on Megalodon.
Nice job on the car mod. I did smash it, but until that happened, pure magic. So, I spent some time poking around Meg's camp. I was right. The man's a full-blown wannabe tyrant. He wants to take the island, and he might just be strong enough. But he's not gonna make his move until his little shark ship is refueled, which explains the pipeline. Jones and I are gonna keep gathering intel. You keep fighting. Make us look good. Hey, Jones? I heard something out there I really don't like. Maybe it's time for us to round up the surveillance equipment.
Like, bad something or bad something?
Just chatter, I hope. I'm gonna start by saying there's a lot we don't know, so don't get too excited.
Was there something on the tapes?
Yeah, but it's probably just rumor.
Okay, you don't seem so sure.
I think we need to see what they're talking about out in the Wasteland.
Good news, team. Megalodon has exactly one competent engineer, and she is splitting her time between building the pipeline and defending the refinery from people like us. We have time, but the second they get that nitro flowing, we lose. Megalodon will be unstoppable.
I've been following the chatter in the Wasteland. I had a feeling we hadn't seen the end of Pandora's box, and I'm worried I'm right. The Wastelanders have been finding gems. I think they're from the box, which means we need those out of circulation. Find them and bring them to me.
Yeah. You know, not to critique your plan, but is that a thing that you should be doing?
Do you have a better solution?
It's just, your family doesn't have a great track record of, not destroying the world.
Yeah, well, I'm the black sheep. Let that come in handy for once.
First, I want to say I trust you.
Great. Then we don't need to hear the rest of what you have to say.
Hope, I have direct experience with this sort of thing. When I got lost in the 0 point, I got all the way lost, so just leave it alone. Power like that can't be controlled. Best case, it destroys you. Best case.
And worst case, it falls into the wrong hands. The box wants to be found. I can feel it, and if I can feel it, there are others.